Welcome to Business Success Tips, where you learn to make more money in less time and have a lot more fun. I'm your host, Paul Sanneman, founder of Contractor Staffing Source, where we help contractors build great teams. My guest today is Chris Badley from DoubleDome Marketing. So, Chris, tell me about your background and why people should listen to you about marketing.
Sure. So my name is Chris Bradley. DoubleDome Digital Marketing is the agency that I founded 25 years ago. I've got another partner, and we actually complement marketing because we both have business degrees and come from a very different perspective than what's pretty. We look at the fundamentals of a business to do that. So um, with that, we've got 25 years of experience doing this in 30 different industries. We've built what we call digital playbooks and frameworks as opposed to treating everything as a one-off. So we can implement quickly, consistently, and with a process that means we get the same results each time for each business that we're working with.
Okay, so the people listening to this podcast are mostly contractors.
Mhm.
Um, And so, give me an example. You've been in business a long time. How digital marketing has shifted over the last 15 or 20 years and what you've seen like currently and how people can adapt.
Sure. So originally, when we started 25 years ago, we were having conversation, especially in home services, about why I need a website, right? My business has been around for 5, 10, 15 years, and we didn't have a website. So it was one of those, this is just a fad. And then that moved into everything else we've done as we've kind of expanded out. What we originally saw was it was very easy to get found on Google with basic optimization, right? So that was the where you started was you optimized the site, Google gave you the ranking because everybody wasn't doing it, and it was easy, especially in the home services space. Like,
Okay.
every plumber didn't have a website, every landscaper didn't have a website. It was much easier to do it then. Um, what we've seen is a combination of things. From the marketing point of view, it's geographically unbound, so you can get services from wherever around the world, which means you're not necessarily going to get great marketers. So there's a risk there that by hiring anyone and everyone from wherever you go, they'll tell you what you want to hear, but they won't necessarily deliver. So reputation's been impacted on whether or not digital marketing works. And then on the flip side of that, when you get an agency that does work, you get good, consistent results. They might have to change with techniques over time, but you see that maybe the business isn't really set up to scale. And that could be because of their responsiveness to new leads coming in or how they service the client. So we've seen it on both sides. It's gotten more competitive because people have gotten better at doing it and understanding what they need to be able to find a, homeowner looking for that service. And they have kind of a standard checklist where they start on the internet, get a list of a certain number of, vendors that they want to talk to. And then depending on response, you may not be on the list just simply because you didn't follow up. You didn't call back.
Right. Now there's a lot of debate whether, in the old days it was SEO, it takes a long time, but it's worth it. Now
Mhm.
people are going, well, don't buy with SEO because it's all about Google Ads and being found and that kind of thing. So you must have some opinion on that. Where do you split the buddy between SEO and pay per click? And is it worth doing? Give me some examples.
Yeah, so the framework we use uses both. Google Ads is still excellent for quick wins, right? We have tons of control. We get great information from Google Ads, right? They make 90 plus percent, 95, 99% of their money on Google Ads. So it's within their best interest to make sure that they work. And so you can set up Google Ads and they don't work at all, or you can set up Google Ads and they work quite well. The catch with that is over time, as the markets have gotten more savvy, the cost per click, the cost per acquisition has gone up. And so you're not looking at how much you spent for a click. You're looking for how much you spent to acquire that client. And ultimately, if you keep that client, how long you keep them.
Yeah.
With SEO, what we do is, SEO has got a standard, do your keyword analysis, figure out which keywords generate the most search volume kind of thing. Those could be the most competitive. What we like to do is to start a keyword or an SEO campaign, that same strategy, and then take the data out of Google Ads because they give us what keywords convert as opposed to what keywords get visitors, and move those into the SEO campaign. And that way, what you're doing is you're taking the cost per acquisition from a paid search campaign, and you're using the blended rate of the SEO campaign, and you're reducing the total cost per acquisition. So we piggyback both off each other. More so in the fact that we're not looking at it from a we do Google Ads or we do SEO, and more from the point of view of every landscaper or home renovator. They want leads. They want projects,
Right.
high quality leads. So it really doesn't matter how we get them. It's that we get them. Right. And so that's kind of the secret to it, is not saying one thing over another. It's like, no, how do you use them both intelligently? And
Now,
look
now,
at
how do you, one of my complaints about a lot of marketing agencies is they give you a lot of statistics, but they don't give you a lot of results. Like, well, you've got 7 zillion views and blah, blah,
right,
blah. We did
right.
this, we did that. And I go, yeah, but show me the money. I mean, like what actually
Exactly.
produced cash.
Yes.
So do you have a way of tracking like return on investment if people spend whatever $3,000 or $5,000 a month with you, how that
Exactly.
actually
Yeah.
converts into leads and how the leads convert into money?
Exactly. And that's the way we work, right? Yes, we do lots of things, right? There's lots of activities, there's lots of metrics you can pull out of it, and that's why it's enticing. But in reality, what you want to know is how many people picked up the phone and called me, and how many people submitted a booking form or a set an appointment form, or whatever it may
Mhm.
be. Those are really your two things. That's all you care about, right? And ultimately, if you can say, okay, this month we saw 50 phone calls and form submissions come into you, how many of them were what we call MQL, marketing qualified? Ultimately, how many were sales qualified? Like they had the money, they had the time, they had the desire, that kind of thing. And then how many did you close? Right. So once you get to where the campaign is generating leads, marketing qualified leads, then it becomes a engaged conversation in, did you close them? Why didn't you close them? Is it because the leads weren't great? Is it because you didn't respond to them, or they didn't respond to you because you didn't respond in a timely manner and they went with someone else? You were 25% too high. Whatever the reason is, you start with the fact that here are the phone numbers and here are the form submissions. And if you can look at those, you can eyeball, especially the forms, and say it's a legitimate person with a legitimate address. This isn't a fake email address. It matches their name. Looks like a good lead from a marketer's point of view. Now the ball's in your court. So that's the key, is to be able to say we can track phone calls, we can record phone calls with call tracking services, right? And say, okay, this sounds like legitimate, good conversation here. And then same thing with form submissions. And it's ultimately about how many of those did you convert into a sales qualified lead and close.
Well, you keep hearing speed to lead. Like, apparently when people go down and go Google, they go click, 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 click.
Right.
And if it takes you 5 minutes, you're sort of too late, right?
Mhm. Can be potentially, yeah, because the people are so rushed. It's on their to-do list. I need to call X number of landscapers to do this project. So they'll call five. They may talk to some right then and there. They may not talk to some for 5, 10 minutes, but they're sitting at their computer. That was when they had the
Right.
intent to get that done.
Right.
And if you call them 3 hours later, they've probably had 2 or 3 phone calls already from the ones that are really trying to grow and scale, and they don't need you anymore. So
Now, how do you
it's silly.
fix the speed to lead and the closing ratio? I mean, let's say you've got a client, you're giving them, quote, good leads, they have the need, the money, and all that stuff,
Yeah.
but you're not closed again because you're not getting back fast enough. You don't have anybody who can close, your pricing's off. Do you help them with that, or is that their problem?
We don't help with that, right? We're marketers. We're there to generate leads, but I can put pressure on you to recognize that part of the business process is broken, right? So the concept is that each part of your business, whether it is lead generation or sales or service delivery, at some point something's working better than something else. And so if your lead gen system is working well, but you're not closing them, your sales process is broken. If your sales process is closing, but your customers are unhappy after the product is delivered, they're unhappy with the service. So you have to look at each part of your business, not as a landscaper, not as a plumber, but as a business owner. And I think that's really where, especially in home services, where I think there's always room to grow, because you've got people that go in it and treat it as a business and understand that they need people to deliver the services. And you have people that go into it because they left the company they worked for to start their own thing, but they didn't have the business fundamentals. They might be a
Right.
great landscaper, they might be a great plumber, but they want to plumb, right? And
Well,
that's not what we go.
that's a transition I call it from a craftsman to an entrepreneur, which a lot of people can't pull off.
Yeah.
So, and now I think it's getting worse with a lot of capital or funding coming into this organization. Companies are really getting good. I mean, a company comes into market, and let's say private equity brought in X dollars. They can afford to do the right stuff. They know how to market. They do stuff. How does the local guy who doesn't have the same cash, the same expertise as somebody who comes in for the private equity and is trying to, buy up the roofing market or the plumbing
Right.
market or the landscape
Right.
market? How do they compete?
They compete on fundamentals, right? It's service, it's quality, it's responsiveness, it's price. It's as the industry matures and as you get money into the industry, yeah, you have to be better. The ones that aren't better, the ones that don't run like businesses, the ones that don't look at their metrics, their KPIs, whatever those may be, yeah, they're going to run out. The thing I think I see the most of is um, a business owner that doesn't understand that there's got to be a budget for everything. There needs to be a budget for marketing, right? And if you don't have a budget for marketing, eventually you just don't have any leads, you don't have any projects, right? There has to be some sort of higher level management of the sales process. You can't do it by, notepad, right? You've got to have a spreadsheet or a CRM, something with somebody with some fundamental foundations in selling, right? Like time to response, things like that.
Well,
So
yeah. Yeah,
go
but
ahead.
how do you figure out your marketing budget? Because I've heard everything from, 10% to 5% to whatever. I mean, the problem with the small guys that are, two guys in a truck plus versus
Yeah,
somebody who's got 20 locations, they don't have a budget. They don't know what their budget should be. They just know
right.
they're not getting the leads they used to get. Even though the town is growing, their business isn't doing as well as it used to. The pay-per-click has gone one up, way up. They don't think they can afford it or not. And they're frustrated going, well, how's this marketing company going to help me? Because I'm getting less leads, I'm paying more money, and things are not looking good.
Right, right. Um, yeah. So the catch here is that you have to start somewhere. You can't say, well, it's not working, so I just won't do it. Right. So setting up a foundation and setting up like a proof of concept, right? We rerun our campaign because it's not just SEO. It's not just Google Ads, right? It's Google Ads, SEO, your Google business page, content marketing, right? There's a lot of things going because those are all the things that engage a prospect at top of funnel, middle funnel,
Mhm.
bottom of funnel. So so you have to build a sustainable system and you have to let the system continue to run. And what we generally see is you've got a business that has a marketing budget that understands I've got to do something, whether I've identified that, we do community outreach or we, do something in real world or we do digital marketing or whatever it may be. They have to do it. It can't go away, right? The
Mhm.
ones that don't acknowledge that they have to figure something out. They have to have lead flow because lead flow turns into projects and pipeline turns into a close number. There's just math
Right.
to it. It's business 101. And so if they ignore it because, well, this just isn't working like this, that's not how business works. The grit and the determination you have to make the business successful, to hire the who's that do the work instead of figuring out how to do it because you only have a finite amount of time each day. Uh,
Right.
so you have to break it down and really go to business 101 first and say, okay, I have to market. How I market is really what the question is, not should I market. You have to, you have to
Well, now there's so many marketing agents out. How does somebody make a decision on how to find a good marketing agency that is a good fit for their business? What do they look for? They go to the internet, they ask ChatGPT. How do they find out, yes, this looks like a good fit for me and my company?
I think probably the best foundation is kind of initial impact, like on the website. What do they do? Who did they do it for? What's been their success? Right. So agencies with case studies. We have case studies for home services and professional services on our site. Conversations with the individuals. Um, Knowledge is what you're listening for, right? And then ultimately, what are you going to get? We always talk about our reporting. That's the deliverable. That's what you're paying for, right?
Mhm.
It's not we did 73 things, but here's a list of phone numbers, here's a list of form submissions. How did this go? Right? That's the tangible thing. That PDF or that link or whatever it is that says this is what we did and this is what it resulted in, it is the tangible there. And so a lot of times we'll have someone come to us and we're like, hey, so you've been doing SEO with another agency. Let's see the report. What are they doing? What are the keywords? He's like, I don't
Mhm.
know. I don't have anything. Well, when is the last time you talked to him? Like, oh, we don't talk. If you hired a marketer, like a full-time employee of your company, you'd probably talk to them, right? They'd be in the office.
Right.
Like, how are things going? Hey, let's talk about doing a marketing program for summer or whatever, whatever the thing may be. But for whatever reason, once they get hired, you kind of just let them do their thing and trust that it's going to happen, as opposed to, no, I need to see performance. I need to see, what you're saying is happening, and I will vet that against what I'm seeing in the business. It can be as
Okay.
much as, what does my bank account look like after 3 or 4
Right.
months of doing this?
So I have a quick, let's say I have a landscape company. I've got, 15, 20 employees and I'm in, I don't know, Kansas City or someplace.
Yeah.
How do I give me three things I do, practical things I do to find a marketing agency that is a right fit for me and my company? Maybe where I go, two questions I ask, because people really don't know how to do that. And maybe you can help me.
Right. I'd start with what the service they provide is, right? And recognize what your goal is. Because I think the biggest thing in our industry that business owners get lost in is like, I need someone to do SEO. That's what they think the goal is. But that's not what you need. You need someone to generate leads,
Right.
right? So you have to step back and go, what's the goal? What do I need to do? And then the questions you ask of that agency are specific to what your goal is, not what they do. How do you get me leads? Is the question to ask, right? Have you done this before? What's the success been? When we're having these conversations, this is how our offering, our services are structured. At the same time, I'm listening to them to understand if they're prepared for scale, right? What's your average deal size? What's your close rate? What's your lifetime value, right? How long do you keep that customer? Right? Do you offer them other services? Can you expand that lifetime value? So we can understand, because we're looking for long-term clients that are looking to scale. So I can understand if you're 2 months away from shutting your doors because you haven't done anything to this point. So asking the right questions about what you need and being prepared long before you're desperate is really the question. So,
Now, can you ask somebody, what do you think is going to cost me here I'm in Kansas City. I've got a landscape company. Can you ask what's it going to cost me per lead? Have you done this before? Is it like 500 bucks a lead, 50 bucks a lead? Can you give them any estimation on, I mean, it all comes down to cost per lead and conversion. It's dollars
right,
and cents, right?
right, exactly.
So can you ask questions like, give me a company to work for, what does it cost per lead? What was the conversion rate? Show me some examples of how it has worked for another landscaping company. Is that a fair question?
Yeah, yeah, that is. And it doesn't necessarily. So for us, it can work exactly like that, and it can be just landscapers. Do you work with landscapers, or it can be like we have a framework. I business owners think their business is unique, but the framework that you use and the tools you bring to bear really are the same, right? It's just whether or not the marketing resonates with the prospect.
Okay,
So
so let's role play this just for fun. Okay, I'm a landscaper in Kansas City. I'm calling you up and going, okay, I'm going to spend, pick a number, 3,000 bucks a month on marketing or something. I've got, I've been trying pay per click. It's that great. It's going more expensive. I don't understand it. So, tell me, Chris, what's it going to cost me per lead if I hire you in Kansas City to find me landscaping jobs?
so it would depend on, like, so what's your average deal size?
My average deal size is 5,000 bucks.
Perfect. Okay. When you close that deal, do you offer any ancillary services, or do you nurture that client and to grow them? Do you offer, like, are we doing landscape? Let's say that's a landscape project. Do you do hardscape as well? Do you do lawn services? Right? Do you
We
do
do some
pruning?
maintenance. We focus on, redoing yards and that kind of stuff. And we have
Okay.
a little bit of a maintenance business, but it's mostly we come in and tear the
Major
yard out,
project.
put a new one in, and then we're done.
Okay. So what we'd want to know is the average lifetime value and how many of those leads you close. What we can do then is we can take the keywords that we'd be using to drive traffic and what you've got in terms of website right now and calculate a return on investment, which basically will be like, okay, if you've got X amount of dollars to go into SEO and Google Ads or a project, let's say a playbook, um, with an average deal size of $5,000, let's say the client lifetime value is, yeah, we get lawn service for some of them, so our average goes up to maybe 6,500 over a 3-year period.
Right.
That's fine. Then we can say, okay, great. So with that, with where you are, this is roughly what the cost per click is going to be with your budget and what we see in terms of conversion rates, right? Because we don't just run one campaign. And so I can actually do a blended rate across every campaign we run, regardless of whether it's professional or home, just home services or just landscapers. And I can give you estimated guesses, right? It's never 100%. For whatever reason, you can't replicate the same campaign over and over and over again on Google Ads and get the same result. Should be able to, right? You should be able to, but that's not how it works. You also can't just double your budget and double your leads. Should be able to. That's not how it works.
I mean, it's most people, I mean, and we work a lot of clients, and their frustration is, am I getting my money's worth and can I do better? I mean, let's say it's costing, when it all comes down, it's costing him $250 a lead, right? And that's what they figure it's costing him. And I'm going to talk to you, can I do it for less? Can I do it more? Because they sort of don't know what they don't know. You know what I mean?
Right.
And they don't know whether they should change or keep the same agency or what to do, right?
Right. And that's definitely legitimate. What we generally don't see a ton of people trying to do it better, simply because there's a point at which they have to go do the other things to prepare to do it better. So in other words, if flow is good and consistent, you're dealing with other issues. My salespeople and how good they close, how well they close. My staff and how well they deliver service. So like when I reference back to some other part of the business breaking, you have to circle all the way back around to marketing as you go through these other pieces, right? Because part of what we need as marketers is 5-star reviews, right? Part of what we need is to say, okay, can your close rate be better? If we generated the same number of leads, right? If we did nothing in terms of marketing budget, can you close better? What's the close rate now? If it's 25%, if I've got one landscaper that closes at 25%, and I've got another landscaper that closes at 75%, it's not.
So I think the frustration, Chris, is that I'm spending money now. I don't know whether I'm getting a good deal or not. I sort of don't know what I don't know. And so let's say, do I call you and say, okay, this is what I'm doing, this is what I'm getting, can you improve on that or not? Is that a fair question?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's what we would hope for, right? Is that you're given data and information about the performance of your campaign. You can give that to another agency and then go, oh yeah, we can do better than that. I mean, it's very common for us to simply do a Google Ads audit and realize there's some just basic things that are set up wrong. It might be a serial amount of money, but like search partners, we never set up search partners.
So I would say, if you are a construction company and you're in remodeling or landscaping or some service industry, and you don't know whether you're getting a good deal or not, because my guess, most people don't know. Can they call you and say, Chris, tell me, am I getting a good deal or not? Is this, you can spend a half hour with them or an hour and tell them, yes, it's awesome, you're doing great, or no, you suck. I mean, you can do that.
I mean, 25 years of doing it, it's pretty easy to telegraph whether you're doing it right or not.
Okay, cool. So Chris, people want to get a hold of you and get that half hour, how do they do that?
You can come to DoubleDome.com, or you can reach out to me directly at cbradley@doubledome.com. We've got, there's a million ways to get in touch with me. Everything that comes through any of our forms, I get to see. So yeah, at any point in time, and we do that. That's most of my day, is talking to businesses about what they currently are doing, and if that's running well.
Okay, so I would encourage anybody listening to this podcast, if you don't know whether you're getting a good deal or not, and you have a question on, can I improve my $3,000 or $5,000 I'm spending a month on marketing and get a better deal? It's certainly with a conversation you to find that out. Would you agree?
Yeah, absolutely. I think they should be doing that on a regular basis.
Okay, cool. Well, thanks, Chris. I appreciate that. And if you are not absolutely positive that you're getting an awesome deal spending your marketing money, I would definitely give Chris a call.
All right. Thanks, Paul. Thanks for the time.
Thanks, Chris. I appreciate you being here.
All right.